Hello and thanks for staying with us right here on Bernama TV. Here's this hour's top story. The world mourns the passing of Pope Francis, who died yesterday from a stroke and heart failure just days after appearing at St. Peter's Square. This was on Easter Sunday. And in our Point of View segment today, I'll be speaking to KISHAN JASANI. He is the CEO of GERARD Thornton, Malaysia. He weighs in on the Malaysia-Singapore Economic Zone and the new opportunities it presents. I'm RATNAM. You're watching The World on Bernama TV. We begin Bernama World with this somber news that has dominated headlines since yesterday, the passing of Pope Francis. Now, according to a death certificate released by Vatican doctor Andrea Arcangeli, Pope Francis died of a stroke and irreversible heart failure. Now, the 88-year-old pontiff had fallen into a coma before his death early on Monday morning. Francis, the first Latin American pope and a transformative figure in the modern Catholic Church, suffered from double pneumonia earlier this year. His death came as a shock following his appearance in St. Peter's Square on Easter Sunday, where he greeted crowds from his open-air mobile. No date has been set for the funeral, though the Vatican said it is expected to take place between this Friday and Sunday. A group of cardinals will meet to schedule the date to set the funeral or the funeral plans. The passing of Pope Francis has sparked global tributes, including from Malaysia's Prime Minister. Dr. Sri Anwar Ibrahim said Pope Francis will be remembered not only as the Pope from the Global South, but as a moral voice of compassion, humility and justice in a turbulent world. In a Facebook post, he highlighted the Pope's commitment to interfaith understanding, environmental stewardship, and the dignity of the marginalized. Anwar added that the Pope also championed the dignity of migrants and refugees, urging the international community to respond to their plight with humanity and conscience. In the meantime, world leaders sent their condolences after the Vatican announced the death of Pope Francis yesterday. Other leaders who posted condolences include French President Emmanuel Macron, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, and US President Donald Trump, and many more. Leaders across Asia Pacific, including India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, also grieved and sent condolences over social media. Also, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres expressed his deepest condolences following the passing of Pope Francis, who he describes as a beacon of hope, humility and humanity. Guterres lauded the Pope as a transcendent voice for peace, human dignity and social justice.
I want to extend my deepest condolences to Catholics and all those around the world inspired by the extraordinary life and example of His Holiness Pope Francis. Pope Francis was a messenger of hope, humility and humanity. He was a transcendent voice for peace, human dignity and social justice. He leaves behind a legacy of faith, service and compassion for all, especially those on the margins of life or trapped by the horrors of conflict. Pope Francis was a man of faith for all faiths, working with people of all beliefs and backgrounds to light a path forward. Through the years, we at United Nations were greatly inspired by his commitment to the goals and ideals of our organization, a message I was honored to convey in my meetings with him as Secretary General.
UN Chief Antonio Guterres on the late Pope Francis. Now, here's a distressing update from Palestine. According to a statement released by Gaza-based health authorities yesterday, the Palestinian death toll from the Israeli attacks in Gaza since October 2023 has risen to 51,240. Over 117,000 have been injured. In the past 24 hours alone, at least 39 people lost their lives and dozens more was subject to ongoing military operations across the enclave. In other news, Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister visited Afghanistan on the weekend and marked the first such high-level visit by Ishaq Dar since the Afghan-Taliban ceasefire in 2021. The Deputy PM says Pakistan will be working with Afghanistan to prevent the use of either country's soil for the launch of terror attacks on one another's territory. Dar's visit comes despite an ongoing campaign aimed at the expulsion of Afghans living in the country illegally. Now here's what we know. Pakistan plans to expel 3 million Afghanis this year in its latest phase of a nationwide crackdown launched in October 2023. This is to expel foreigners living in Pakistan illegally. Now, when you talk about foreigners living in Pakistan illegally, most of them are from Afghanistan or they're of Afghani descent. Next, the United Nations says security in Haiti is deteriorating and the magnitude of the violence has sown panic among the Haitian population. Maria Isabel Salvador, the special representative for Haiti, told the Security Council that stepping up international support for Haiti is more critical than ever and urged member states to support the 2025 humanitarian response plan. Salvador commended Kenya's steadfast leadership and thanked all contributing member states. Now we take a look at the ongoing Ukraine-Russia conflict. On Monday, Russia said its forces continue to strike Ukraine military units in Russia's Kursk region, while Ukraine said that its forces repelled dozens of Russian attacks. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, the 30-hour Easter truce ended midnight on Sunday. After that, units from the North Military Group resumed strikes on Ukrainian forces in Russia's Kursk region. Both sides accused each other of violating the non-expired Easter truce. Here's another update on the conflict. Ukraine on Monday announced plans to hold peace talks in the UK, while Russia on the same day confirmed its commitment to pursuing a diplomatic solution to the crisis. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky announced that the country will hold peace talks with UK, France and the US in London tomorrow. Meanwhile, Kremlin spokesman confirmed that Russia is open to pursuing a diplomatic solution to the crisis but refrained from giving a particular time frame. Now we'll bring you the latest on this story as we move with more updates across the day right here on Bernama TV. Stay with us for that. And I don't know if you've already heard or caught wind of this yet, but Malaysia and Singapore are entering a new phase of economic collaboration through the Johor-Singapore Special Economic Zone, better known as the JASEZ. Shortly, KISHAN JASANI of Thornton joins me to give us his take on what this all means. I'll be right back. This is The World on Bernama TV. Stay with us. Welcome back. Malaysia and Singapore are entering a new phase of economic collaboration through the Johor-Singapore Special Economic Zone, or JASEZ. This zone is expected to draw in major investments, enhance regional connectivity and create high-value jobs. That's something everyone's looking forward to, turning Johor and Singapore into what they say is a shared engine for growth. With stronger infrastructure links and streamlined policies on the horizon, this initiative signals a major step forward for bilateral relations and ASEAN's economic integration. At this time, I'm joined by KISHAN JASANI, CEO of Thornton, Malaysia. KISHAN, thanks for doing this. I'll jump straight into the questions. What is the vision behind the Johor-Singapore Special Economic Zone, and how does it build on the strong ties between both the countries?
So thanks, Gerard, for having me, and good afternoon. This is essentially a new era of bilateral cooperation. So the Johor-Singapore Economic Zone is the first special economic zone in ASEAN, and I can also say for the world, where we have two sovereign nations coming together and working together as like what you said, a single economic entity. This is both the first time we're having a G2G relationship with Malaysia and Singapore to attract the best investment, boosting trade and drive regional growth. At the same time, though, we have to realize that both of our countries have a shared history, have a shared resources, and also we're essentially brothers and sisters of a different country. And that's what we're working on. We want to build based on a strong economic foundation. The first thing here, Malaysia and Singapore's trade in 2023 has reached 123.6 billion Sing dollars, or about 425 billion ringgit, growing 6 to 8% annually. This is basically well above the country's average growth rate. And Singapore was Malaysia's #1 source of FDI in 2023 for RM 43.7 billion. Just today, Deputy Prime Minister Gan Kim Yong and also MITI Minister Tengku Zafrul has also mentioned that RM 26 billion ringgit has already been committed for the first quarter in the Johor-Singapore Economic Zone. So that shows a strong reception towards this initiative. But like you said, two countries, one economic ecosystem. Johor offers land, resources, and the industry base. We've got 3,500 km of developable land, whereas Singapore contributes capital, technology, R&D, and the global connectivity. So working together on this is just basically the next best step for both of us. And this has also been inspired by global integration models. You've got the Shenzhen Hong Kong Economic Zone that delivers both manufacturing and finance collaboration. You've got the Suzhou Industrial Park, where 15% of Suzhou's GDP comes from only 3% of the landmass that it has occupied. And also the Øresund Bridge, which is, again, a joint venture between Sweden and Denmark. You've got 75,000 daily commuters and 10 billion euros of regional uplift.
Right. Now, how can this zone attract long-term investment, and of course foster new industries, especially if you look at technology, logistics, and of course something everyone's been talking about, clean energy?
Yeah, so I think for us to be consistent, for us to attract those long-term investments, investors want to see three things. One, policy consistency, G2G execution, and a strong privatization sector. And I think that's been delivered. On the government front, we've got strong investment incentives. The Malaysian government is offering 5% corporate tax rates for 10 to 15% for years, and whereas 15% income tax for knowledge workers, similar to what Talent Corp offers. And the sectoral focus, we've got 11 priority industries, so we're not kind of like fishing for industries and whatnot. We're keeping it tight, we're keeping it focused. And at the same time, investment momentum. We've got anchor investments already, such as Microsoft, NVIDIA, GDS Holdings, and YTL already committed to building new data centers in Johor. And even going beyond that, there's a recent news article I've read that we now have, from a year-to-year change, we've got more data center capacity moving forward than the whole of the rest of the world, even North America combined. That's something that we're looking for.
Right. We need to move really quickly. I want to talk about talent development now. How should that be handled to ensure that Malaysians and Singaporeans are well prepared for the high skill? And I'm just guessing that there'll be high skill jobs being created as we look at the creation of the SEZ.
Absolutely. And this has to go on two sectors, right? One is what I would say the TVET, or more technical education, and also more on the professional side of things. When it comes to the TVET, I think both Johor and Singapore, we have our TVET, we have our our technical colleges, and Singapore has their ITEs coming together to kind of deliver solutions for employers is the best step forward, especially when it's aligned to the industries that the SEZ is trying to focus on. And hands-on skill building, similar to an apprenticeship program where we have got work-based training embedded in the SEZ firms, and then after moving forward, industry academic collaborations. But that's on the job skill side, right? More on the labor side. In terms of the professional work, something like talent mobility and mutual recognition, a multiple entry work visa, perhaps, and also recognition of engineering and technical certifications from both countries. The outcome is, we want to see 20,000 skilled jobs by 2030 across all the sectors, and also a higher base salary, so Johorians and Singaporeans both get to enjoy the benefit of this economic zone.
What improvements in cross-border infrastructure and mobility can businesses and commuters look forward to with the SEZ? I
think it's already started. We've got the RTS link coming online the end of next year, where we are looking at a 15-minute commute between Bukit Chagar and Woodlands North in Singapore. It's expected to serve 10,000 passengers per hour, and it's going to drive 35% of traffic away from the causeway. I've been on the causeway itself. I'm telling you, it's very, very busy. That shows the amount of trade that happens between both nations. The more ways we can reach Singapore and the more ways Singaporeans can reach Malaysia, the better. You've even got initiatives that's launched by the Malaysian government, like such as the My Border Pass, which is expected to also roll out within by both countries. When you talk about 40 to 50% reduction in immigration clearance lines, that's what you see. That's kind of the proof in the pudding itself. But it's not only people, it's goods. A single customs declaration system to reduce trade documentation by 60%. That's what we want to see, because that drives trade, that drives goods together.
Let's take a look at businesses for a while, and I'm sure the answer is long, but just try to sum this up for us. How can businesses of all sizes, from let's say startups to major players, find opportunities within the JSSEZ framework?
So we have to think that Malaysia and Singapore both have industries from small to large scale, and I think it's both. And we have to first focus on the small industries, SMEs. Inclusive designs for SMEs and startups, kind of embedding them into the supply chain of the investors, is a good start. And you're recognizing that Singapore has a higher cost base, and our local suppliers or local producers can take advantage of that fact. But that's one aspect of it. We need to talk about how are we ensuring that investors are committed to it. A one-stop investor facilitation. We've got the IMFCJ, which is the Invest Malaysia Facilitation Center in Johor, that's able to give power. But I'd like to see more power given to our investment agencies, so that when businesses come in, they basically get a one-stop shop, and without going to this department or that department or whatever, just trying to get everything approved in a single step.
Right. A very quick yes-no answer. Can this collaboration set a new benchmark for regional economic partnerships in especially Southeast Asia? KISHAN?
Absolutely. I feel the first step is this. We are talking about a Johor-Singapore economic zone. And it was very recently we spoke about an ASEAN industrial park within the JBSEZ. I think this just goes to show that if this works out, this can be expanded. And who knows, up north, Perlis and Thailand.
Right. Thank you very much, KISHAN. I have to stop you there. We hope to have you in the studios at some point to discuss this even further. KISHAN JASANI, CEO of Thornton, Malaysia. I'm off to a quick break. When we come back, more updates for you. This is The World on Bernama TV. Stay with us. Welcome back to Bernama World. China and Indonesia celebrated the 75th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations. They also commemorated the 70th anniversary of the Asian-African Conference, also known as the Bandung Conference. According to Chinese Foreign Minister Wang, both countries are good neighbors across the sea and good friends with a shared future. Meanwhile, Indonesian Foreign Minister Sugiarno had this to say: in a world fraught with uncertainties, greater unity between the two countries is needed now more than ever. Here's a quick history insight. Bandung hosted the first Asian African Conference. This was back in April 1955, and it marked the first time that countries in the global south united to oppose imperialism and colonialism, and it was a big thing then in defense of their sovereign rights and a more equitable world. Now, in another development, China and the UAE agreed to step up investment cooperation and push for greater common development. Now, the agreement was reached between the Chinese Vice Premier and the UAE Vice President during a meeting of the high-level China-UAE Investment Cooperation Committee, which they co-chaired via a video link. Ding said that under the strategic guidance of the two countries' presidents, the China-UAE Comprehensive Strategic Partnership has flourished, setting a model for relations between China and Arab countries in the new era. Now, here's what the International Monetary Fund is saying about U.S. tariffs. According to the agency, rising U.S. tariffs are expected to slow global growth and drive inflation higher in 2025. Now, the warning comes as the IMF and World Bank spring meetings get underway in Washington. The IMF says trade tensions, especially between US and China, are rattling markets and disrupting supply chains. Its chief warns that tariff uncertainty is stalling global progress. Now, in a growing battle over free speech and academic independence, according to a lawsuit filed yesterday, Howard University is taking legal action to prevent President Trump from freezing billions of dollars in federal funding. The university argues the move is unlawful and is a threat to academic freedom. It says that the White House is using funding as leverage after Harvard rejected a list of sweeping demands. The lawsuit follows a broader crackdown on elite universities over campus protests. More is expected as the situation develops and tensions escalate. Meanwhile, Nepal quietly reflects on a painful chapter. This Friday, April 25th, marks the 10th year anniversary of the deadly 7.8 magnitude earthquake that hit Nepal and killed thousands of people. A second major quake struck on May 12 east of the capital Kathmandu, just as Nepalese were beginning to recover from the previous earthquake. The quake killed 9,000 people, injured more than 22,000 and damaged or destroyed more than 900,000 houses. And before we wrap, in Egypt, Sham and Asim, the festival celebrating the arrival of spring, brings families together, especially around one traditional dish. It's called herring. The smoked and salted fish, often served with onions and lemons, has long been a staple during religious and national holidays. According to an owner of a herring factory, while it's a festive favorite, Egyptians have grown to enjoy herring all year round. For many, it's a meal that unites loved ones, making every holiday special. And that's a wrap for this hour's broadcast. Later at 3 p.m. on the Nation Diplomatic Dispatch, my colleague Pasha Rahim will speak to Dr. Jeffrey Williams, founder and director of Williams Business Consultancy, Sandhya and Berhad, on the impact of U.S. tariffs on the global economy. Don't forget to visit Bernama.com and follow us on our socials or social media channels, YouTube, X, Instagram and Facebook for the latest. This has been The World on Bernama TV. I'm Jared RATNAM. Thanks for watching.